Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another Books Beside My Bed video. This is my reading week from the 2nd to the 8th of December. I read 3 books this week and started a 4th. I read a total of 1,049 pages and I'm up to 250 books for the year. I'm going to start really quickly with the book that I am currently reading, and that is book 3 in the Violet Eden series by Jessica Shervington. This is Emblaze. I did read Embraced and Entice couple of weeks ago, and I've got this book and the final 2 books to read, hopefully before the end of December. This series follows Violet Eden, who is a teenage girl who discovers that she is a Grigori, and that is a human with angel essence, essentially. And the Grigori are on Earth to help stop exiled angels who reside on Earth. And there's a whole lot of animosity between them. It is a series that basically thrives off a love triangle, so if you're not into those sorts of things, you're probably not going to like this series, but I really enjoyed it. It's very easy to read. It's loveozya, and I'm excited to get through the rest of the series and see what happens to all of the characters. The first book that I completely read this week was Undying by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is the second and final book in the Unearthed duology that they started last year. I received this for review from Allen and Unwin. It is a 2018 release and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Obviously, being the second and concluding book in a duology, it's very, very hard to talk about this, but in Unearthed, Mia and Jules ended up on an alien planet trying to uncover the secrets of the Undying, an alien race that has left a message for humans talking about how their race died out because of their hubris, and they hinted at wealth and riches and technology being left behind on the planet where they existed. So in Unearthed, Miles and Jules were on that planet, they were looking for it, and then at the very end of that book there was a big cliffhanger where we started to learn more about the Undying, but we weren't quite sure who they were. And this book, it unpacks the history. I can't really say any more than that, except that this book takes place back on Earth and Miles and Jules are still trying to unravel that mystery. I don't often talk about my predictions and things on my channel, but quite often when I'm reading I do have a bit of a think about what I think might happen, and I remember at the end of Unearthed thinking I had sorted out who the Undying actually were, and for once I was right. Not in the same way, but I was right about the basic premise of who the Undying were, and that was actually quite satisfying. The only problem that I had with this was some pacing issues, but overall it is a very solid young adult science fiction book and I highly recommend it. The second book that I read is probably going to become one of my favourite reads of the year. Mind you, I've got a few of those, but it's definitely going to be up there, and that is Circe by Madeline Miller. I listened to the audiobook of this. I'd actually requested it on my library's audiobook app and it came through in December, so I thought I might as well pick it up and read it. And I listened to it as I was reading the book, so I had the book open in front of me, which is my preferred way to listen to audiobooks. Circe was published in 2018 by Bloomsbury and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Circe is the daughter of a titan and I think a nymph, but I've forgotten off the top of my head. But she's a very meek and unassuming character, and she's not the typical beauty that you would expect to find in the court of the Greek titans. And she's very much looked down upon by her siblings and her parents. To be fair, she doesn't really go out of her way to try and change that opinion of herself, but she's still a very intriguing character. And this is the story of her life and the way that she has impacted on various Greek myths. And it was really, really well written, and it was beautiful to read and listen to. Each chapter is itself a story, so the chapters are quite long, but they're actually a complete story, a part of her life, which I really liked the way that that was told. Circe is also one of the first witches, and as such you've got her exploring that side of herself, as well as whether she truly belongs amongst the gods or whether she actually prefers the mortal world. And it was a beautiful read, and I don't actually really want to say more than that, because I actually think this is a story you have to sort of go into without too much knowledge, because I knew that it was based off the Greek myths and I knew that it was sort of more like the historical fiction mythology type stuff, and I knew it was going to be more of a literary read, and it was that, as well as being sort of a fantasy story. But I think had I known more about it, I would have been really more intimidated than I already was by the book. And I have to say, this book is not intimidating. It is wonderful and I highly, highly recommend it. The last book that I read this week was The Wee Free Men by Terry Pratchett. This, I think, is book 30 in the Discworld series, but it's the first book in the Tiffany Aching series. This was recommended to me by Kirsty and I really enjoyed it. I read it on my Kindle. I believe it was published in 2003 by Transworld Digital. That's just the edition that I had. And I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is the story of 9-year-old Tiffany Aching. She lives on a farm and she is one of a few children. And being the second youngest child, her job is quite often to look after her youngest brother who, you know, she's not the biggest fan of all the time because he's always sticky and gross and trying to get lollies and basically being a bit of a pest to her, but he's her brother and as such, no one is allowed to mess with him because he belongs to her. In this story, her brother is taken and she is rather put out by this because Tiffany is quite a strong character and once she sets her mind to doing something, she does it. And as it turns out, Tiffany has the potential to perform magic or to be considered a witch. And this is her journey of teaming up with the Wee Free Men and trying to rescue her brother. And it's very, very fun and entertaining, and there's some really funny scenes. It reminded me a little bit of like an Alice in Wonderland Portal World sort of story, and I really appreciated that. I will be continuing the Tiffany Aching books at some point. I don't know when, but I will, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. So those are the books that I read this week. In the comments, let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them, or let me know what you have been reading in the last week. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.